You're listening to the Believe in Giants podcast with two-time Super Bowl winner Carl Banks and the voice of the Giants, Bob Papa.
We welcome you to another edition of Believe in Giants, along with two-time Super Bowl champion Carl Banks, Bob Papa, presented by FanDuel. Believe in Giants. And Carl, crazy free agency period. We're recording this on Wednesday morning as of 4 p.m. Eastern. The new league year begins, so players that are going to be released will officially be released, and all these agreed-to terms with players will become official when they put pen to paper. And, we have to first talk about this wild situation with the Baltimore Ravens and the Raiders, because as we started this recording, news broke that the Ravens are signing Trey Hendrickson to a 4-year, $112 million contract after backing out of the Max Crosby deal last night. It saves the Ravens 2 first-round draft picks and a draft capital. Just a crazy situation. It's not unprecedented. We've seen this before about physicals. And look, you know this as someone who played in the league. The team doctors can look at your physical a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
And, you had brought up the point before we started taping. I wonder who actually pulled the plug on this thing.
Yeah, somebody was being a super fan and decided we're going to give up whatever we need to give up for Max Crosby, and they announced it. And then somebody walked in the room and said, no, we're not doing that. I don't know if it was the owner. Clearly, the owner would have to sign off on trades that big. And someone probably sat the owner down and said, listen, we need to figure out a better use of our resources. And there's a guy in Cincinnati who is really, really good that we don't have to give up this type of capital for. And then the thought probably came, says, you know what? You're right. Hey, Doc, this guy just had surgery, right? Okay, we need to figure out how this is not going to work out for us, and just get Trey Hendrickson's guys on the phone and let's put a deal in place. I got to believe this had to be at the ownership level, because the Ravens ownership is so involved in the operations of the team. He had buyer's remorse, simple as that. And probably for good reason. It was a lot to give up. Max Crosby is one hell of a football player, don't get me wrong, but the market was not starved for pass rushers. And then you had a high-level guy in Cincinnati who could do for your team really good things. So it's weird. It's a little icky at that level. But then, it's the Raiders. Would it not be icky if something didn't work out the way it should have and the Raiders are involved? And that's no slap at the Raiders, but those deals with Raiders, just something, it gets icky all the time.
Well, if you need a premier pass rusher, why give up 2 first-round picks when all you have to do is give up cash?
Or how about just draft 1 or 2?
Yeah, that too. But I think they're in a little bit more of a win now mode. Okay.
Well, pass rushers can get you where you need to go. There's a few of them in this draft, and you can get them going good. It's not like the Ravens don't have a pretty good infrastructure there that you can plug this guy in and get him going. So, can I talk about something else that's really icky before we get into the Giants thing? But this is New York based, and I think it's freaking really unfortunate. This, I don't want to say slander, but what is happening with Geno Smith as he returned? And the Jets fans are just not happy with him. But some of the stuff that's being said is if the guy he's redeemed his career. he's gone on once post Jets and done some good things. But boy, they are just killing him and the Jets. They call him a bum. He's this, he's that. I'm like, is this how you want to treat a guy coming in? Or you just, this may be a deal too that somehow they wiggle out of. Just based on, just the feedback in the public thrashing that the Jets are getting. I wouldn't be shocked if news comes out before 4 o'clock that, hey, look, we decided to go in a different direction at quarterback. Because it's hard. Like, this is the guy that you're bringing in to lead your team. In New York Talk Radio, which, started with our friend Craig Carton, just went on a freaking rant. And it just started to get wheels and momentum. And then it just started, you could tell all of New York tuned into what he was saying, or they got wind of it because they were repeating verbatim everything he said. And I'm like, man, this is unfortunate. And it wouldn't shock me if the Jets were looking at somebody else and saying, hey, look, this ain't going to work out because this guy ain't going to be welcome here.
Well, it's a shame because Geno was persona non grata with Giant fans because he's the one that ended Eli Manning's starting streak, but that was not his fault. Right. I mean, that was Ben McAdoo and Jerry Reese's decision to go that route and end Eli's streak without, Eli having an injury, being benched healthy. Not Geno Smith's fault. Someone was going to start the game instead of Eli if Eli wasn't going to start. Geno just happened to be the person. And then Geno went on and has had a very nice career in Seattle. And then it didn't work out this past year with the Raiders. But as you just said, everything with the Raiders always seems to be icky. I mean, they're paying 5 head coaches right now. So, and the Pete Carroll situation and Chip Kelly, like the whole thing was a mess. And Geno was set up to fail. But I look at Geno Smith's time in Seattle in a stable situation. And you know what Geno Smith proved to me? Geno Smith proved to me that he could play quarterback in the National Football League at a pretty high level. You're not going to confuse him with the top-tier quarterbacks in the league. No one's saying he's a Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes or any of those guys, Josh Allen. But he has proven in Seattle that when surrounded by good players and good coaching and everything else, that Geno Smith can sling the rock, throw touchdown passes, and play pretty good football. So, to treat him like his name is Stanley, to use a line from Boomerang, that's really unfair. It's really unfair.
It is. And listen, Geno, one thing I give him credit for, he committed to being a good quarterback. And, that was an issue when he was with the Giants that, was his commitment fully there? That's long gone and behind him. Like you said, he has proven he's dedicated himself to being a good quarterback, and he's proven that he could be an NFL quarterback in this league. But boy, that's a tough situation to walk back into when your team and your fans don't want you. How is that even tenable? And then it just brings up or it flashes back to all the feelings he had when he left the place. And that's tough. I don't think he deserves that. I don't. And I think if he shows up for the Jets and, he's getting this type of unwelcoming, it's going to be a tough place to start. Like, it's not an easy place to play. The Jets are not a good football team. That's why they need, players, and they're trying to get players. Then you address the most important position, and he's starting, with a big anvil just inches from his head, ready to drop on it from this fan base. And it's just, ooh.
Well, I mean, fan bases can be rough. I mean, a buddy of mine, my producer at Golf Channel, Rob Sharp, he's a big Vikings fan, so he follows all the Vikings podcasts and all the social media stuff. I guess someone created a post that looks like it's Vikings letterhead. It's not, obviously it's not real, but it's in the format of kind of the Raiders statement last night. And I guess this is how some Vikings fans feel. The Minnesota Vikings have backed out of our selection of J.J. McCarthy in the 2024 draft. We have no further comment at this time. Fans can be rough. They can also be really witty. That's funny.
They can be. Speaking of, that would be a great place for Geno Smith to go, to the Vikings. Because, Daniel Jones left here just a beaten man and went there. They accepted him with open arms, and he went on to rehabilitate his career and show that he had ability. So I just don't think New York is a place Geno would want to be right now.
I think Kyler Murray is going to wind up in Minnesota, and I think Kyler Murray is going to wind up being the starter because as soon as he walks in the building, he's the best quarterback they have in the building.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. Yeah. So let's get to the Giants' moves here. They were active in free agency. I look at what they've done, Carl. I don't know. I like the moves that they've made. I wouldn't necessarily say that there's huge upgrades at this point in time. I love the Isaiah Likely pickup. Hated to lose Wandell, but $19.5 million. The Giants weren't going to go there. Cordell Flott was their best corner last year. You and I love Flott, but health is always an issue with him, and I could see why the Giants weren't going to pay him $15 million a year. I like Greg Newsome, who they signed from the Jaguars, former first-round draft pick of the Cleveland Browns. But your thoughts overall on what the Giants were able to do from a free agent standpoint?
Well, I think the two biggest acquisitions for me, Bob, is the kicking situation and the punting situation. These were two areas where you look at the kicker and punter that you had. You say, when they're good, but they have cost you games. And that's not the way the league works. You have a job. You are expected to do it. And, you miss a few here or there, but when you're costing games and you're not available, then, that's the life of a kicker. That's the life of a punter. You cycle through and then you cycle back somewhere else. But I think when you look at the way the Giants lost games last year, let's just say, okay, the talent base was what it was last year, and yet there were opportunities to win games, and your special teams, your kickers, were not either available or not very good when you needed them. So now you just closed a gap. You just said, okay, these are games now that we should be able to win, tie, go into overtime. But we're not gonna take another chance on guys who've been good in this league, but they haven't been available, or they've been good in this league and they weren't very good when we needed them. So clean slate for Coach Harbaugh, who's a special teams guy. So those are the two biggest upgrades. Those are notable upgrades. They spent like they were notable upgrades too. I think the rest of this are like Tremaine Edmonds, but do you say, okay, well, he's been in the league and Bobby Okerike's been in the league and we swap him out. He's a fresh perspective. He's been an active player. I like him. But they're going to draft a linebacker somewhere. They have Micah McFadden they re-signed, but I like Tremaine Edmonds. He's big, he's rangy, right? And that's where your upgrade comes from. It tells you this is the type of football team the Baltimore Ravens are going to be. And it also says that the Ravens are building on both sides of the football for today's NFL. Everybody thinks, Yeah, well, the NFL's a passing league. It's a passing league. You know when that changed? When Saquon Barkley had his breakout in Philadelphia. And you look at the kid from Minnesota, not Minnesota, from Indianapolis. And you just look around, and then the kid from the Raiders. All of a sudden, running the football made a difference. And then you look at the Seattle Seahawks. They ran the ball, and they put their quarterback in positions where he didn't have to do a whole lot, but just be himself and run the offense. That's today's NFL. Everybody wants to run the ball. And here's the thing. If you're on defense, if you're too small to stop the run, then you're just gonna look like the Giants looked. The bottom 5 in the league in stopping the rush. And then you just physically get beat up. Physical teams are the ones that are going to win games this year defensively. So when you've got a guy like Edmonds who's 6'4", he's rangy, he's physical, can play the pass, I think that's why they did what they did there. Offensively, you get a fullback who's probably going to be good on their special teams too. Ricard, that gives you physicality. The fact that nothing happened at the running back position with K9 out of Seattle tells me that they feel good enough about the 2 backs they have, and they're going to put a fullback in there, and they've got another tight end who they've signed who can be a difference maker in both the run game and pass game. They're going to be physical, Bob, and and then you add that, and that's the beautiful part about what he's putting together here. And he's got 2 offensive minds also as coaches, but he's got a quarterback who can actually play off schedule, but he's also got a team that can stay on schedule that'll allow this quarterback to operate not out of desperation, right? The other guy who I think was very important was Jermaine Eluemunor. Jermaine Eluemunor, for me, and I'm pretty sure his teammates will say it, and you watch him on film, he ain't sexy, but he was a top-rated pass blocker in the league.
Yep.
Good enough, not better than good enough against the run, but he's a physical, he's a want-to guy. And that's the difference. A want-to guy wants to be good every single down. A want-to guy says, hey, I don't need help. And they're saying, we need to give you help on this play. And he comes and curses you out because he doesn't want it. He's the guy in their locker room who is that leader by example. He can raise his voice if he needs to, but he's a dog. And I think having that part of the continuity with Andrew Thomas says a lot. It's important.
I mean, I think with Eluemunor, obviously doing a show on Sirius NFL Radio every day, I'm plugged into what's going on with like all 32 teams, and I talk to a lot of different people outside of the Giants that I have relationships with. And I always felt like there was a chance that Eluemunor was going to be back, because I think that the fan base might have overestimated Jermaine Eluemunor being on the open market, exactly what he would get. Mm-hmm. I think there was people that were saying, oh, he's going to get like 18, 19, maybe even $20 million on the open market. And just based on the fact that he agreed to come back to the Giants relatively quickly means that his market was lower than I think what fans and maybe some in the media were thinking. Oh, they're not going to be able to afford to keep him. Tackles are expensive. I mean, he got a nice upgrade. I think what's his average? Like $13.5 million on his deal, which is a good bump for him. But it was digestible for the Giants because he's a late bloomer, right? He's not one of these left tackles that's been a full-time starter, Pro Bowl guy for 8, 9, 10 years. Those guys get the big money, high-end market money. He's a guy that emerged in Vegas under Carmen Brasillo, originally started with Baltimore, so Harbaugh knows him, and some of the coaches that Harbaugh brought in know him, and he's blossomed later in his career. So I think this is like one of those perfect examples where price and production kind of come together, especially considering that he's in his 30s, right? He's not 27. So I think the Giants got a fair deal with him, and he got a fair deal just kind of based on what the market is. And I love the fact that there's continuity there. I think that was a really good re-signing.
So I'm just kind of looking at the free agent market at tackle. I'm sorry, he was not wanted. I just don't think the money was there for the tackles, but he was still a top free agent tackle at the top.
Yeah, but he wasn't. I think a lot of fans at the end of the year were like, we're not going to be able to keep him because
the market wasn't there, right? Like the money that they were paying wasn't there. It wasn't, it wasn't like, okay, well, he's no Trent Williams. He can't make the money that Trent Williams is making. It's just that this is what the market is. And he said, okay, Giants, if you're going to compete, if you can be competitive in this dollar space, because his agent's probably saying there ain't going to be $19-20 million for anybody. So let's give the Giants a look at it. I'm glad he did. I'm glad he's back. He's important to the team, and he's earned. I mean, listen, man, I have no issues with saying that this kid earned his right to get another big contract, and I'm glad he got it with the Giants. He was one of their best players on offense, and hey, I'm glad he's a Giant. He earned his pay. I wish he could have got more while still staying with the Giants, but the market wasn't there anyway. And nothing to sneeze at what he got.
So I hated that they lost Bellinger. I really like Daniel. Good dude. But again, money is money. Tennessee spent a lot of money on him. They spent obviously a lot of money on Wan'Dale. Good for them. But I like what the Giants did. Manhertz is, it's so funny because Dable loved Manhertz. Like when we talked to him about the tight end room, we were both a little shocked last year before the first telecast in the preseason about how locked in Manhertz was. Like it wasn't even a question.
Yeah,
man. Oh, he's going to be on the roster. Like he brings so much more to the table than what any of us really see. So you bring him back knowing that you're probably going to lose Bellinger. And now you bring in Ricard, who is a perennial Pro Bowler. And perennial Pro Bowl doesn't really mean much to me anymore because of the guys that make the Pro Bowl every year. But like for the fullback, Ricard has been considered, along with Juszczyk as the premier fullbacks in the NFL for a long time.
Sure.
So if you're going to lose Bellinger, you bring back Manhertz. Now you add Ricard to play the role that Bellinger was going to play for you, and sometimes that fullback type role. And now you add Isaiah Likely, and now you have a dual threat with Likely and Theo Johnson as far as being vertical. And the thing I like about Likely is having played with Lamar Jackson and played with Derrick Henry, Isaiah Likely understands the importance of having to block.
Yes.
But he is also a guy that, especially in the red zone, is a really good off-schedule play because a lot of Lamar's plays are off-schedule, and Likely a lot of times has been the likely recipient of those off-schedule plays for big plays. So I think this was a very nice marriage for Jaxson Dart, the Giants, and Isaiah Likely.
And I believe that Likely will help Theo Johnson because Theo Johnson is just so talented, but the consistency aspect of it and the refining of his skill set is really going to take off, I believe, with Likely on the roster. And here's the other thing, too. Likely's going to help Jaxson Dart. Because, again, we talk about the off-schedule plays, the unscripted plays. Likely can uncover in the field, too. He's just not a red zone threat. He can uncover against safeties, against linebackers, and just being able to spend time with your quarterback and knowing that you have a quarterback whose skill set doesn't have to be a fire drill for him to improvise. Now you can start to, what they call it, getting on the same page. I look at him, he looks at me, that type of synergy that Kelsey and Mahomes have, right? They just know where each other's going to be. They're going to start to feel those types of things. So I think from a personality standpoint, this is a return to Giants football. What Giants football should be. Giants football is not wide open West Coast. And the reason I say that is no disrespect to those types of offenses or defenses. You're in a division where you're going to have to bloody noses. You're in a division where if you trying to match point for point, you're probably going to end up broken and bruised because one side of the football of every team in the NFC East, they play physical, right? Or they're trying to play physical. So you might as well solidify both sides of the football and be the big dog in the division. And I think that's what you're starting to see develop. Their offense is not going to be bullied. They're not going to be pushed around, and they're going to run the ball. They've got Tyrone Tracy and Scatterboo, and you've got Ricard, who will make a linebacker hesitant to run up in the hole to try to stop a lead. Likely is a good blocker. Manhertz is a good blocker. But then they can open up their offense when needed. And I just think the two offensive coaches that they have kind of offsets the thing that has always haunted Coach Harbaugh, giving up big leads. How do they preserve a big lead? Or in big games, does Coach Harbaugh allow other teams to get back? They've got two different offensive systems now, not systems, but minds or input that should prevent that type of thing from haunting them with the type of talent that they have. But I mean, that's the one thing that has always haunted Coach Harbaugh is like, and they get in these games and they blow big leads or they blow a lead or they can't hold on when he's got everything he needs, right? He's always had a good kicker, got a great quarterback in Lamar Jackson, and yet they couldn't quite get over the hump. They've always had good defenses. Well, now you got some input. You got two different guys that can give you input in those types of situations. Obviously, you have a guy who comes from Kansas City that's all they do is either come from behind or just preserve and win games. And so you've got input that is needed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about what I've seen so far. Edmonds is a guy who's got 14 career interceptions. Mm-hmm. He's got a nose for the football. I think you're trading 2 years, right? He's almost exactly 2 years younger than Bobby Okereke. Mm-hmm. Played at a high level in Buffalo, started his career there. Played very well for the Chicago Bears. I also think, when you have a man in the middle, so to speak, and that man is has to be one of your leaders on the defensive side of the ball. And I think when you have a new regime coming in, mm-hmm. It's not the worst thing in the world to bring in a new leader, so to speak. Just for, I'm not saying optics, just for culture building. kind of coming in new with the new coaches. It's a new voice. It's a new way of doing things. So I don't think that's bad by any stretch of the imagination.
And he's a different body type too. I mean, he's a high volume tackler. Bobby Okereke was a high volume tackler. Say what you want about him. But this is a different body type. This is a different style of defense that I anticipate the Giants playing. If you just look at the types of players that are being added and the types of players that are being retained, it tells me that they are going to be a more physical team. And they're going to put big bodies that can run, that still have athleticism. So, Bobby is a system agnostic guy. He's going to go, as long as he's healthy, he's going to go and be productive somewhere else. But what Edmonds brings is different. He's bigger, he's longer, he's rangier. And that's the profile I see of this defense right now, of this team.
Yeah, and listen, Newsome's going to come in and he's going to have an opportunity to start right out of the gate, just like Flott.
I tell you what, though, just on that note, I think Newsome is going to have to compete, and I think they're saying to Deonte Banks, "Hey, poop or get off the pot. This is your opportunity. Deck's been cleared. We're going to see what you can do." I think that could be a competition we keep our eye on. I don't know what Deonte Banks we're going to see, but I think, just the fact that Flott's gone, so he competed with Flott, lost his job, last year. Here we are again. He's got the talent. He's got the skill set. He's got an incredible physique for the position. They're going to look at him and say, this is not a position that is locked down. This is yours if you can win it. I just don't believe that they brought in his replacement. I think they brought in a quality starter who could be the guy, but Banks, I think, is gonna have his opportunity. Like I said, I'd be shocked if he allows his career to be summed up as a good kick returner.
Yeah, well, I think that there'll be competition. I wouldn't be shocked if they drafted somebody. Obviously, they still need help at the receiver position. They have to identify what they're going to do with the interior of their offensive line. I don't necessarily see them going back to the plate with the same three in there with Runyon, John Michael Schmitz, or Van Roten, or at least have some more competition. We don't know where Marcus Bowe factors into any of this because, again, we have a different set of eyes looking at him. What do they see as his skill set? They see him more as a guard or as a tackle, and other pieces that are on the roster. Is there somebody outside the building that they're still going to bring in? Because remember, as we're recording this, the new league year starts on Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. There's a whole nother wave of free agency that's going to happen. It's a lesser tier. So I think there's a lot of moves still that have to be made. But at the end of the day, it's about the draft.
Let me ask you this question, and forgive me, folks, if I miss this. And I'm not being facetious here. Did anything happen with Evan Neal?
Not that I know of.
Transactionally.
Well, he's available to sign with anybody that he wants to as a 4 p.m. Eastern because as a first-round draft pick, the Giants didn't pick up his fifth-year option.
Right.
And I don't think the Giants have tendered him. So, yeah, he's free to go.
Yeah, but nothing transactionally has happened with him around the league, right? He's free to go wherever he wants, right?
Yeah, but he's going to be he's a later wave free agent.
Yeah, we were talking about the interior, and I was just like, did I miss something? This second day interior line thing is going to be where the value comes in for the Giants. And that's where they were the last time they started to rebuild this line too. What was Van Roten? Wasn't he not a premier guy?
Yeah, he's not. It wasn't a priority signing kind of guy.
Right.
No.
Right. And Runyon, same thing.
Runyon a little bit more, but I think they'll look. They might bring Van Roten back. He was pretty good for them last year.
Yeah. Well, the quality's going to be in the middle of this free agency thing. I like the direction they're going, and this is, as they say, I heard, I think it was Adam Schefter on TV said they don't play this Sunday, but they're building a roster that on paper is going to be competitive at each position. You can tell this is a head coach who knows the type of team he wants on both sides of the football, knows the type of personality. He's putting players in place that can help with that messaging, but also are really good players on the football field. So I'm excited about where they're headed. Can't wait for training camp, mini camp, off-season. Because off-season, we're going to learn a lot about the guys that remain on the roster. You're probably going to hear a lot about, wow, this is different. Oh, wow, I see. I'm happy for the players. I'm happy that the vote of confidence for Dexter Lawrence was right out of the box. He is our rock. He is our stone in this defense. And I hope that incentivizes him to know that he's got the support from the coaches, and he gets in there and he gets himself as healthy as he's been pre-surgery and go out there and ball out. He can be a dominant guy. I want him to be a dominant guy again. And they're going to get him some help. They're going to get him some help next to him via draft or something. They're going to get another guy in there to get him to loosen him up a little, uncork him a bit.
It's funny that you mentioned that quote, because I was going to give our buddy Art Stapleton a shout out, who covers the Giants, because I saw him tweet. Art likes to go back and forth with the fans, a little bit like you on Twitter. And I guess he was going back and forth with some fan this morning, and he was like, listen, they don't play a game on Sunday. Relax. It's a free agency officially starts today. There's going to be a wave of second-tier free agents over the weekend, and then there's going to be a third layer of free agents, and then everything's going to quiet down, and then the draft is going to happen. And then there'll be another wave of bargain basement free agent shopping. So, the Giants aren't taking the field on Sunday with their current roster. They don't have a game until September. So let's pump the brakes on grading moves and everything else, because at the end of the day, it's the draft and how you draft that are going to be the most critical parts of all of this.
And BTW, the training camp transactions are yet to happen as well. That's where a lot of things start to kind of finalize your rosters when training camp starts, and there's a move that could be made somewhere during training camp or a surprise cut in training camp. So, yeah, there's a lot to this process. This is just the first phase in the NFL calendar, preseason calendar year.
Trades leading up to the draft, day of draft trades, so there's a lot. This is just a jumping off point of things that they've done. But we like what they've done addressing the special teams. You're bringing in a Pro Bowl punter, you're bringing in a veteran kicker, a playmaking tight end, a talented fullback. That's we're seeing, as you said, we're seeing the groundwork being laid out for this team to be a little bit more physical. They weren't good in short yardage situations, or as good as they could be on either side of the ball. So, those are some of the things. Now, Carl, this is also a very busy time for you because, for me, it's busy, but from a fandom standpoint, players down here, like the whole community, schools are off, sports are canceled till next week, spring break, because it's the players. So this sleepy little area of Ponte Vedra gets kind of overblown with the players. In fact, I'll be going out there a little bit later today, and was out there last night for the Ludacris concert, or yesterday.
Nice.
But you have business and fun going on right now. So let's fill the audience in with these college basketball tournaments. And it's so weird living here and not being in the New York metropolitan area where, when the Big East tournament hits, you're locked in. There's no big time college hoops in this area. So it's almost like when Lindsay, our producer, mentioned that you have all these starter activations going, and then you started rattling off which tournament's starting. I'm like, what? Those are all starting now?
Yeah. So Big East tournament starts today. And just like last year, we have this incredible activation at Macy's in Herald Square, which right across the street from Madison Square Garden. We have our starter Beast of the Big East collection where fans of their team can come and get their starter gear. All teams are represented. Then we've got, Big East legends coming through to sit down and talk on the Big East Rewind podcast that's happening. So in between games, we have programming going on there. Kansas City, starting tomorrow, is the Big 12 tournament. We partnered with Rally House, which is directly across the street from the T-Mobile Center, and doing similar. But our Big 12 collection is ridiculous. It's Big East is always my favorite because I just have this affinity for Big East schools. Obviously, Big 10, I went there, really cool. But Big 12 is something. So if any of you are in New York, Kansas City, stop by New York, stop by Lids on 42nd Street, or if you want to see the real activation, it's going to be at Macy's Herald Square. If you're in Kansas City, stop by Rally House, right across from T-Mobile Arena. You're going to have so much fun. It's a lot going on. And then in Chicago, we don't have activation because there's just no room for it. So everything is in Arena. You can find the product in Arena or on rallyhouse.com. So now
are you traveling back and forth?
I've been globetrotting for the last 2 weeks. So today, Big East. Tomorrow, Big 12. Friday and Saturday back for Big East finals.
Now, do you have to be careful what you wear in Madison Square Garden? Because you got all the teams represented by starter. I know you got the St. John's. I know they're your squad. So no, you don't care.
That's my squad. I don't care. Listen, but that's what the fandom is about, right? So as soon as I announced the drop, all the UConn fans is like, oh, nobody wants that trash from St. John's. We're buying UConn stuff. But there's schools like Xavier, Marquette, Butler, and Creighton. They never had starter jackets ever. So we're introducing, Xavier did have one. We're reintroducing that into the market. So for the fans, they just want to come get their gear. That's the beautiful part about it. There's something for everybody.
You don't have a jacket though, like a starter jacket that has every school's logo on it.
I do. No. I have the Big East. I wore it yesterday. Actually, I would have had it on here. I have the Big East sweatshirt with all the logos, all the Big East teams on it, and then I have the neutral Big East basketball hat.
I like it. And they can go online and get everything.
Oh, starter.com. A lot of the product is there, but the jackets are selling out on starter.com. So if you're in New York, go to Macy's and get it, or Lids. Yeah, so I'm excited, but somewhere on my person, even if I'm wearing Big East neutral product, there will be something representing the St. John's Red Storm.
There you go. Rick Pitino working his magic.
There we
Carl,
go.
how'd you like to end this? Back to back.
Tell a friend to tell a friend.
Believe
in Giants.